meeting to order. Welcome to your City Commission meeting. Tonight we're going to have a study session. That's what we'll begin with, and then we'll transition into a special meeting. Reminder, please turn off or silence all cell phones during the meeting. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 7 p.m. and midnight and are available for viewing on YouTube. Study session comes first, and the first agenda item is quarterly presentation by the Leavenworth Unified School District number 453, Dr. Roth. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, thank
you.
Good. Mr. Mayor, good evening.
Good evening.
City Commissioners, good evening. It's seems like these quarterly reports happen a lot faster.
Yeah, they do.
We have our winter sports calendars just for your desk there, or your refrigerator. So if you would like to watch any of our student athletes participate in any of our winter activities, we'll have the schedule for that. Really just try to give you an update on our construction. We're still scheduled to be done with the storm shelter at the Warren Middle School, which will serve as an art room and a music room. That will actually get our students at the middle school off the stage and actually have a classroom that's conducive to music class. And our art room will be much larger than what they have now, and it will serve as a storm shelter for that entire building, which is something that they have not had. So we're excited about that. We should gain possession of that, and students should be able to start at the second semester, which would be the first day after Christmas vacation here. So we're excited about that. We are still on schedule to gain possession of our intermediate center by March 1. We're still looking at moving, like in a soft opening, moving our 6th grade over sometime after spring break and letting them finish the school year out, so we can get a flavor of how the building's going to flow, and some timing of some things, and then allow them to actually enjoy the amenities of that building, which I think they'll be very impressed with. And so we'll get that March 1st, and so we have a plan for that. If Mr. Richmeyer has done a nice job covering the transportation piece of what our board's decided. We'll be transporting, right now we're transporting just under 600 kids. The new transportation plan will be funded up to over 900 kids, which basically will transport all of the students that have been displaced or will be displaced by the closure of Lawson. And it will also increase transportation for students. We'll have more 5th grade students become eligible for transportation as well when the intermediate center moves out to the Warren campus. And so that's the first phase of our transportation plan. Easton Bus is actually going to get routes that we'll have published so our parents and patrons can see where the pickups will be next year. And that way, if we have to consider some alterations to that plan, we'll have time to be able to communicate with our families. And so that's kind of the initiative there. And then the following year, once we kind of see the flow of this plan, then we'll add into our kindergarten center. And so we'll do that the following school year. This spring, we'll be starting a new strategic plan cycle. So we're gearing up for that and excited about the information we can gather through that. Other than that, we got to use our first snow day of the year, which I know most kids were excited about, but I'm sure most parents were like, come on, we can have school. But just to kind of remind publicly, we shared this at a board meeting, but I'll share this with you as well. There's many things that go into that. The first thing is the safety of our students and staff, but it's not just the roads that go into that. It's also sidewalks, it's also parking lots, it's the safety of our maintenance crew getting in and out and being able to do that. If we have to bring in like a construction company to help push snow, those types of things with the graders with our parking lots. That all goes into it. Temperature, we use the temperature of negative 15 degrees. If it's negative 15 and your kids are exposed to that for 30 minutes or longer, they have the potential for frostbite. So at negative 15, we consider that as well. And the forecast. A lot of times we have to depend on the experts in the field and what their forecast for the day and beyond. And so all of those things go in. We communicate regularly as Leavenworth County superintendents and school districts. We also communicate with Johnson County and Wyandotte superintendents. You know, we kind of try to make an informed decision at that point. And so, fortunately, it was, or unfortunately, depending on which side you're on, it was a good decision. It gave time for our parking lots and sidewalks and the safety of our kids and staff. So sometimes we go on a forecast and we cancel, and lo and behold, it's the sunniest day that you have, but this one wasn't that. So with that, I would like to wish each of you the happiest holidays. We appreciate the working relationship we have with the city, and go from there. So I would take any questions.
I don't have anything.
How's the winter sports team? How are they doing? They've started their season.
They've started the season. I don't have a wrestling update. Boys and girls basketball they're more competitive than what the record shows.
Sure.
And so our music, our kids that are involved in music and things like that, they did music on Main Street the other night. Right. It was phenomenal.
Was that just a one?
It was just a one day performance. It was a tag team with our Leavenworth Education Foundation, and the kids did a great job. And it was a neat atmosphere. But I don't have a wrestling update, but basketball teams have been pretty competitive. Their record's not the best, but they're pretty competitive.
As long as the students are having fun and improving.
I think we've got good things happening. I think that, you know, with everything, there's always room for improvement in all that we do. But we have people that care about kids, and that's the most important.
Anything?
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Thank you, Dr. Roth, and to your staff, please extend our very best wishes for a happy holiday season.
All right.
And we look forward to a good 2020.
Have a safe 2020, right?
Yes.
All right. Good luck.
Thanks.
The next agenda item is a presentation to Commissioner Jermaine Wilson. Commissioner Wilson, could you come up here with me, please? I am going to present former Mayor Jermaine Wilson a presentation for his acknowledging and recognizing his service over the past year. But before that, I just want to say a couple of words. First of all, I can't believe you and I have been on the commission for 2 years. I mean, time does fly when you're having fun. So no, it's been great, but the time has gone very, very quickly. But let me just say a few things about Jermaine in terms of my impressions of him, in terms of his service to the city of Leavenworth. I believe his connection to the citizens of our city is unique in terms of its strength and wide-ranging appeal. Particularly his optimism and love of people are two of his best traits, if you ask me. He also has more than a few natural leadership skills that serve him well in the performance of his duties, and I recognize that leadership, and he exercised that leadership over the past year. During his year as mayor, he built on the work of the commission led by Mayor Preisinger in 2018 and was instrumental in building, among other things, a consensus for the first ever Camp Leavenworth, a city-run and city-hosted annual festival, a new rental property program and coordinator position to administer this program, and which we'll pretty much unveil in January and February of the coming year, and a budget process that examines trade-offs in a probably a little bit more fulsome manner. So that, among other things, those are the things that his leadership helped us to accomplish in 2019. And on behalf of your fellow commissioners, I want to thank you for your service. And I want to present him with this gavel, which he wielded very, very well during 2019, City of Leavenworth, Kansas, Jermaine Wilson, Mayor, January 8th, 2019 to December 10th, 2019, presented by the Leavenworth City Commission, December 17th, 2019. Thank you.
Appreciate it. I want to call my son up here.
There you go.
It has been an honor and a privilege to be able to serve and represent this community. My goals have always been to serve God, serve people, and bring this community hope. Man, I feel like I have done my part to this community by serving and inspiring many citizens throughout this community. But most of all, I knew my job was completed when my son came to me and said, "Dad, when I grow up, I want to be mayor just like you." So I dedicate this to my son, Jerry Lee Wilson, the future mayor of Leavenworth, Kansas. And God bless you all. Thank you. You want a speech? Say so. What are you going to be when you get older?
The mayor.
All right, buddy.
Good job.
So we're going to transition into a special meeting. So can I have a motion to open a special meeting?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move into a special meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to move into a special meeting. Any discussion? If not, begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 4-0. The motion carries. First item is mayor's appointment. And at this point, I move to appoint to the City Planning Commission Mr. Christopher A. Murphy to an unexpired term ending May 1st, 2022.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to appoint Christopher A. Murphy to an unexpired term on the City Planning Commission ending May 1st, 2022. Begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 4-0. Next agenda item is second consideration ordinance 8119, vacating an alley, Block 4, Neely's Forest Edition.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, at the December 10th City Commission meeting, the Commission reviewed this item. This is to vacate an alley for Trinity Lutheran Church. That church is located on 10th Avenue between Thornton and Marion. The church owns all the property on that block. It's a north-south alley that runs approximately 300 feet through the middle of that property. There's nothing that's changed since the first consideration ordinance, and staff was recommending approval of the vacation of this alley.
Before I ask for a motion, any discussion, questions, or comments for the city manager?
Is this a roll call?
I was going to say, I apologize, this is a roll call.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
Right, so it's not a
Not
normal
a
motion, it's
correct.
it's
You're
just
just
a
going to
roll.
do the roll call.
Call the roll. So a roll call beginning with Commissioner Wilson?
Correct.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it, 4-0. And that's it for that particular agenda item, Ms. Williamson? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Next is consider contract with Shockey Consulting for comprehensive plan.
Turn this over to Julie Hurley, our Director of Planning and Community Development.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. At our last meeting on December 10th, the City Commission directed staff to enter into a contract with Shockey Consulting to provide services to update our comprehensive plan. So we have worked towards that. We have gotten you a scope of services from them, final scope of services. I know there's a lot of info and numbers on there. It's a little bit hard to read, but it is all on there, everything that they will be providing. We do have a final contract as well that covers all of the bases. So the budget that was approved for this and the over 2019, 2020 budget years was a total of $100,000. We did work with Shockey to get the budget for the project in right at that amount. A few items we're able to kind of flex a little bit and take on a few items as staff in terms of GIS and mapping and some other things that we can take care of ourselves. So we were able to come in right at that budget number. And so after this contract is approved, we will be working with them to set up a kickoff meeting, probably right after the first of the year, and so get going on the project as quickly as we can.
And that budget number is a not to exceed number?
Yes, it's not to exceed that, the $100,000.
$100,000.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Ms. Hurley? If not, I'll entertain a motion for this particular agenda item.
I move to approve the contract with Shockey Consulting as presented for the comprehensive plan.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on this agenda item. Begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 4-0. The motion carries. Thank you. Next is consider bids for 2019 Stormwater Project 2 South Improvements.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, before I turn this over to our Public Works Director, Mike Macdonald, and Mike Cooper, I'll just remind the Commission and those watching the meeting that 2019 was the first year that the city had a dedicated stormwater funding source. And when we unveiled the project for this, the program for this funding about this time last year, one of the big items that we indicated was in dire need of attention was what we called orange fence projects. Those are projects that had been languishing in the community due to lack of funding to address them, not necessarily critical infrastructure, but those that affected people's yards, sidewalks, manholes, cross-street pipes. And so along with large projects, which we accomplished quite a few last year, all available to see on our website, we started packaging these orange fence projects together. We issued the first project earlier in the year, and that project's since been completed. That was 6 locations throughout the community. Again, those locations and pictures are available on the website. And staff has worked internally to design what we affectionately call Orange Fence Project number 2. And so that's what's before you tonight. A lot of work went into designing, selecting, and putting these out to bid. We've got some good bid prices, and once these get going, then we will move to Orange Fence Project Bundle number 3 in early 2020. So I'm going to turn it over to our Public Works Director and Deputy Director to go over this project, what it entails, and the bid process. Mike.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor and Commissioner, as City Manager noted, this is the second of our projects to deal with kind of long-standing, annoyingly orange fence issues around the community. We identified 4 projects for this particular bid. We have a few pictures of each one. First is 637 Macdonald Road. This is a large diameter metal pipe that crosses Macdonald Road. It has no bottom. This is similar to the project we saw up by Hughes Road and Lemon Street. Next is 908 Park Avenue. This is another metal pipe that has 2 yards. It's in 2 people's backyards. It has orange fences. Once again, there's really no bottom to this. Third project is 1210 Washington. Guess what? It is another deteriorated corrugated metal pipe. This is a similar problem. Be removed and replaced with new material. And the last is 1316 Kansas, more metal pipe in people's yards. It has basically been a problem for some time. Staff identified the projects. We tried to prioritize them on the ones that are going to get the most value for our time and resources. The road crossing on Macdonald Road was a project we had not known of until earlier in the year. We felt it was a high enough priority to move it up to the front of the list just because it is such a heavily traveled street. We prepared plans and specifications internally and advertised it for bid. We were pleasantly surprised with the large number of contractors that turned out for the pre-bid meeting, and we received 6 bids for the project. The lowest is from Rodriguez Mechanical Contractors. They may be here this evening. I don't know them. We have not worked with them before.
Yes, they're here.
They are here, yes. But we did, our staff did check references on similar projects with other communities, and there were no issues determined in that process. So we do recommend that the City Commission approve the bid from Rodriguez Mechanical Contracting. I believe that their plan is to get started when they think they can, hopefully in January, unless it's frozen solid, and then we expect to be completed in about 90 days. And we will be working toward another similar project in 2020.
These pipes all look very similar. Are they about the same age? How old are they?
Oh, Macdonald Road's probably 40 years.
40
Yeah.
years.
And the others are a little younger, I think, probably in the
It just seems
30s.
like these are happening all over town.
Yeah, the one here on
Sinking
Kansas
in.
is probably the newest pipe, and it's 25 years old.
It's corrugated metal?
It's corrugated metal, and that's typical
Rusty in
of
the bottom end.
all of the
Right.
corrugated metal in town.
Yeah.
Will we replace it with corrugated metal? or-
No, we're
No.
actually going back with HDPE pipe,
It's a plastic pipe.
Plastic
It
which
won't
is
go,
a
it won't,
plastic,
that
yeah.
won't happen. That won't happen again.
The
Right.
Macdonald Road pipe will actually be an aluminized metal pipe, so it'll have a coating on it, so it shouldn't react to the way that
Yeah.
pipe has. But
Right. Okay.
Will the polyethylene pipe be corrugated?
Yes.
It's not just smooth.
It'll be a smooth inside with corrugations on the outside. It'll look like corrugated metal pipe, basically, only in
No,
plastic.
it's not. Yeah.
You mentioned if it's not frozen, they'll start. I mean, they're digging way below the frost line, aren't they?
Right.
What is cold weather? How would that
It's just,
inhibit it?
you can, things just take longer to do. And equipment breaks, if it's -10, you don't want to work. If you're going to break something that you didn't intend to, working around utilities and such. But the goal is to get started as soon as possible. The contractor, in communication with Mike Hooper, my understanding, that's their goal. But if you get one of those -10, -20 streaks, you probably don't want to work in that. You're going to hurt something or break something.
But below freezing, if it's 10 degrees,
Yeah,
10
at some point,
to
if it's
20
frozen,
degrees during the day,
if it's 35 degrees, it's going to be a miserable, muddy mess. You're
Yeah.
probably better off working if it's 20 degrees outside.
Two of the locations are crossroad pipes too, which are gonna require some asphalt be laid on the roadway and stuff.
Okay.
So it's gonna need to be spring before that one gets finished up.
Right. Okay.
I always compare the bids to the engineer's estimate, and in this case with Rodriguez Mechanical, they're lower than the engineer's estimate. But I noticed that really it's just because of one project, 637 Macdonald Road, and I was just, without getting into all the specific, I was just wondering, that seems to be the difference, the big delta between the engineer's estimate and what Rodriguez has bid.
Yeah, and we usually try to put the engineer's estimate together to be
Right.
high. So
Yeah,
I think that every contractors, they have strengths and weaknesses, and not having worked with this
Right.
particular group before, this may be an area they feel is they're proficient in and can move expeditiously. We didn't have several of our kind of usual suspect local contractors bid on this. They may have been competitive in that same environment.
I know there's no way of knowing, but are you expecting, as they get into this, a lot of change orders?
We never expect change orders.
No, but we always have them.
we try to take into account everything in the project, but there could be some hidden secrets that we don't know about.
Right now, there's no anticipation of anything, but who knows what we run into.
What we've run into in stormwater before is connections to manholes. You get to a set of pipe that you expect to take out, and you realize that maybe farther down, but in the same direct area, there's another section of pipe. And so that's when it's brought to my attention and say, we could do this now for this amount, or we could remobilize for new projects. So, that's typically what you see in stormwater, is those connections or an extended project just to take care of more issues while you're down there.
As they get through with the project, in terms of the final thumbs up, is that from you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
McDonald, or Mr. Hooper? Yes.
Yeah, we inspect this with the city forces, and we basically approve it in our office and recommend payment. We typically withhold 10% of the money that is of the value of the work completed as kind of call it retainage. And at the end of the project, we go back through and make sure everything's done, everything's, if there's supposed to be grass, the grass is in. If it's supposed to be cleaned up, make sure it's cleaned up properly. And typically the last payment is a small final payment along with the 10% retainage.
One more comment on this, there could be some residents in the area of Second and Chestnut watching this, thinking that there's sinkholes all over their area. As a reminder, that project's underway as far as the study and then the design, and that will be, our estimate on that one is about $2.5 million, as it is an entire neighborhood of crumbling infrastructure. So that will come to you in early 2020, and that will have to be a bond issuance to approve that. So that is a lot of what you see here, but over a very large area. So we're doing that as one combined project in early 2020.
That's good.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion on this agenda item? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the bid for the 2019 stormwater project 2 South Improvements. Award the contract to Rodriguez Mechanical Contractors of Kansas City, Kansas, in the amount of $268,584.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second on this agenda item. Begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 4-0. The motion carries. Thank you. Next is first consideration ordinance to rezone 1001 North 7th Street from R16 to General Business District, GBD.
This item will be handled by Julie Hurley, our Director of Planning and Community Development.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. As you said, this is a request to rezone 1001 North 7th Street from R16, which is High Density Single Family Residential District, to GBD, which is General Business District. The property is a commercial building. It was constructed in 1955. I believe it was originally a pharmacy that was in there for a number of years. Might have been a couple iterations of a pharmacy, but it was that for quite a while. It was most recently occupied by the Life Connections Ministries Church. They moved out earlier this summer, and it's been vacant for the past several months. So this rezoning is really just being requested in order to bring the property's zoning into conformance with what the building actually is. It is right on 7th Street there at the corner of 7th and Pawnee. It's surrounded by other commercially occupied and commercially zoned properties. And it is shown on the future land use map as being appropriate for commercial uses. So this is really just cleaning up kind of one of the little zoning oddities that we have throughout town in a number of places. So if you have any questions, I can answer those for you.
This is a first consideration.
It's good to me. We just need a
Right.
consensus.
Any comments or questions for Ms. Hurley? If not, is there a consensus to move this ordinance along for final consideration at a future meeting?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Next agenda item is first consideration ordinance for special use permit, SUP, at 729 Pennsylvania Street.
Once again, Julie, next item.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Again, this is a request for a special use permit for 729 Pennsylvania Street to allow operation of an adult daycare center in an existing building on the St. Cashmere Parish property. There are 4 separate buildings on this parcel. This is one of those buildings. Our adopted development regulations do not have a definition for a use for an adult day center or anything similar. So when we get a proposal for a use that we do not have defined, we have to take a look at the uses that are actually being proposed and compare that to what we have and use our next closest defined use. So that all taken into consideration, we took a look at our child care center daycare guidelines, and so that's how we processed it. I did talk to a number of other communities in the region and had Mid-America Regional Council reach out as well, to see how other communities handled these. And so we kind of made the decision on how we move forward with this based on all of that information. So that being said, the property is residentially zoned, and so it does require issuance of a special use permit to operate this type of operation. This is for the Deeper Window Project organization. It's not affiliated with the Roman Catholic Archdiocese or with St. Casimir Parish. And the proposed use does involve daytime care and programming for adults living with early to middle stages of dementia. There will be two 16-person groups that meet throughout the week at the facility, proposed to be open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. for activities such as art, music, drama, cognitive stimulation, community projects, and other peer support for those individuals. The proposed use is not required to be licensed by the state of Kansas. And so I did mention at the Planning Commission meeting, since this is a use that we don't have defined in our regulations, we do have our annual update to the regulations coming up after the first of the year. And so we do intend to take a closer look at this type of use, since we do anticipate that this will be a larger need within the community, and get a definition put in place for that, with an appropriate title for it, so that we can cover sort of a wide range of this type of use and figure out the best way to handle those going forward. But for now, we've got the special use permit as the adult daycare facility. And so again, this is to place an ordinance on first consideration or for this. So if you have any questions, I can answer those for you, and I know that the applicant is here as well.
Great.
Do we want to ask, should I ask for some public comment before?
Yeah, I think that's great.
And then we can
Either way.
discuss it.
Sure.
So I will ask for any public comment for citizen or citizens to come forward and give us some feedback.
State your name and address.
Oh, that's right. I need you to say your name and address, please.
Elaine Bellardo, 1280 Summit Court,
Thank you.
Lansing, Kansas.
Florida.
All right, good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's been said that platforms are born of passion. My platform today is born of need. The building at 729 Pennsylvania Avenue is a means of addressing the gap in services that exists in Leavenworth County for families affected by dementia. I appreciate this opportunity to speak out for those living with early onset Alzheimer's disease or any type of dementia, like my husband here, Rear Admiral retired Jose H. Bellardo. Raise your hand, Jose. So I know who you are. Okay. Who was diagnosed at the age of 50 while inpatient at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. I have the support and encouragement of many people, especially like those on the front row. Jeannie Reeder, raise your hand, is an MSW, and she started the only non-medical social engagement program available in a 50-mile radius of Leavenworth. Jaquan Heron, he is the Diversity and Inclusion Manager from the Heart of America Alzheimer's Association. Wayne Parks, he's the Director of Operations at First United Methodist Church Leavenworth, who has started the Air Dementia Ministries half-day program in conjunction with the Deeper Window Association. Bill McNamee, and he represents Sacred Heart Parish, which owns 729 Pennsylvania Avenue, and State Representative Jeff Pittman, who is able to speak to you about the connection of this program and the state's mandate for supporting people that are living with dementia. The Deeper Window Association Board of Directors sits directly behind the first row, and throughout the rest of the galley are friends and family who are your constituents, who support our family and people that are in Leavenworth County who would benefit from a dementia empowerment through engagement, education programs, and resources. Our life was upended by the tsunami of events that led to the diagnosis and the aftermath of receiving a terminal diagnosis. When we returned to Kansas, one of the first contacts that we made was to the Heart of America Alzheimer's Association, looking for support, and what we found was hope. It came first through the staff and then through support groups, fundraising, and eventually through Jose's participation in the only non-medical supportive program in a 50-mile radius that he attends twice a week. We live in the 2nd Congressional District, but every one of our resources are in the 3rd Congressional District. I drive 40 miles one way up to 160 miles in one day while paying $630 per month out of pocket for these resources. Twice a month, I drive to the Heart of America Alzheimer's Association in Prairie Village because it is the nearest concurrent support group that he and I can both attend. It's the only one that's really available. It's worth it to us because at Walter Reed, we were told that at year 3, Jose would likely need to be placed in a facility. We are at year 3 now, and he is very far from needing to be placed. He does his own self-care with guidance. He actively engages in conversation, and he is an active participant in our life and in our family and in our community. Programs like this delay placement, which would cost well over $10,000 a month. Upon retirement, at the time of diagnosis, we had a choice. We could have chosen to live near our resources, or we could choose to live near our relationships. We chose to live near our relationships and to drive to our resources. Most people in the county are not able to drive to the resources available in Johnson County. Serving others and advocating for the marginalized all over the world is what Jose did for the last 26 years of his career. He can no longer use his master's in social work or his law degree, so I have taken on the task that is probably the last thing a full-time caregiver should be doing, but it is the first thing that Jose would do. I've started a 501c3, the Deeper Window Association, to make programs like this available and affordable in the 2nd Congressional District. Non-paid caregiving is an exhausting task that overwhelms families. Please take from this the need for non-medical dementia education programs that engage and empower people living with dementia and provide respite for their care partners. People in the early to moderate stage of the disease do not need, nor are they responsive to the term adult daycare. They are people living with the disease, and they benefit from opportunities to make meaningful contributions to the community. The Deeper Window Association seeks to partner with the people of Leavenworth County, the Heart of America Alzheimer's Association, schools, libraries, and faith-based organizations to give people the opportunity to assist at programs aimed at providing hope against the disease process that could affect anyone with a brain. Funding research to find a cure for this brutal disease is vital, and we have participated. We have participated in the Walk to End Alzheimer's for all 3 years since its diagnosis and the longest day. My daughter Morgan created the Sweet Exchange Bake Sale for Alzheimer's, longest day in June, and Leavenworth County residents have been generous. And they have purchased her baked goods in 2018 and 2019, allowing her to raise close to $8,000 for research and support. Providing care and assistance in all stages of the disease is equally vital. I am one of 16.1 million unpaid caregivers in the nation. We are one of 55,000 families in Kansas affected by dementia, and we are willing to address this need with authentic hope and proactive courage. Incurable does not mean imminent death. When discussing dementia, most conversations tend to advance to end-stage realities of the disease rather than the window of opportunity to offer people living with dementia hope. Long before dementia is a disease that one dies from, it is a disease that one lives with. I believe Leavenworth County is well-suited to be a dementia-friendly and a dementia-empowering community. Thank you.
Somebody, go ahead, Commissioner Bowder.
No, go ahead. You want to go ahead and say
Go ahead.
something?
State your name and address, please.
Jeannie Reeder, 7201 Maple.
Thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity to come and share with you about this program. I did create the program about 6-7 years ago now. Let me be very clear about one thing. It is not daycare. It is a social engagement program. And the major thing that you will find when you look at Alzheimer's research is that the best thing that we can do at this time for anyone with this disease is to help them maintain engagement with their friends, with their relatives. the entire family and the community. And why is that? Because what is life about? Life is about relationships. And when these people walk into this program and begin to engage again, and begin to make new friends, and begin to do projects that help the community, they come alive. So it is not daycare, it is a social engagement program. And if you have any other questions about that, I'll be glad to answer them. The program that was first started and continues today is a program that is 2 days a week and 6 hours a day. So that's one thing that takes it out of the daycare realm. Under the laws of daycare, you have to be open at any time. You really can accept anybody. But folks that come to this program go through an assessment to be sure that they are capable of participating in the program, because it's very important for the program to benefit them and for them to benefit the program. So with not saying too much more, I want to say to you that what do we do there? That's probably what some of you are thinking. And so what we've done is we knew that people, again from research, really respond to all of the arts. So using the arts, music, art, poetry and literature, drama, that's what we do. They come in, they gather, they have a cup of coffee, we get started with programming, which is usually music, and they're up, they're active, they're dancing, they're moving, and we also know that music is one of the last things people lose, and you would be amazed, and not at so much at our program, but people that cannot get their words out, cannot talk, do not talk sometimes. Walk into a nursing home. This person does not talk. Turn on the music, and that person knows every word of every song. So we do music. We do poetry and literature. What do we do in poetry and literature? 1,000 different things. We may have a book review one day. We may have a day in history one day. We may have a philosophy club one day. Incredible things. We write stories as a group. We write a poem as a group. And in addition to that, we do drama. And it is incredible if you could see these people in drama. And I have a phenomenal drama therapist who comes in, and today they did The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. Missed a good one. But, and then, what do? We do art. People who have never done art come in and, in fact, I was telling them Friday, I am just amazed how many right now in that group are really phenomenal artists. And some of them are great. These are not refrigerator paintings that they're doing. They are paintings that you can frame and have an art auction with. But in addition to that, I had 2 goals in mind when I created this program. Number 1 was to build camaraderie. Because it's sad to say, because people are not educated about this disease, and they do not understand this disease, that people with this disease begin to lose their friends. And I have had, over the 30 years that I've worked in the field with seniors and with Alzheimer's and dementia, I have had many a person with the disease say to me, you know, we used to have a lot of friends. I don't know what happened to them. I'm going to have to ask my wife. Well, I know what happened to them because people don't know what to say. Or they're waiting for someone to respond to them, and maybe they misunderstood what was said to them, so they respond a little off the wall, and, oh, well, I don't know, and so off goes another friend. So I said, we're gonna build a lot of camaraderie. These people are friends. Today, a gentleman missed the program because of the roads, because like Elaine, they drive 40 miles for him. And another participant came in and said, where is, oh, my friend's not gonna be here today, but I miss him. And so they are, and if someone is absent, they wanna know what's wrong with them, they wanna know if I've called them, they wanna know if they should make them a card. They are friends, and having friends is vital to our survival. The second thing that I decided had to be there is, again, all the time people would say to me, I can't do anything anymore. I can't work, I can't do this, I can't do that. I just am I'm no good. And I said, we're gonna do something about that. And so every Friday, we do community service. And that, in a nutshell, is our program. I wanna add two things to that, if you'll bear with me just a little bit. And that is, what do we do in community service? We do anything and everything I can get my hands on for us to do. But here's a rundown. These figures are from last year because we have not completed 2019, of course. So let me just tell you what we did. And this was compiled not for any grant or anything, but simply, it was almost Christmas time and I was writing a Christmas note to each one of the participants. And I wanted them to know what they had done in this past year. They had made 3,997 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for 2 different food pantries. And at the same time, they had packaged 50 sack lunches. So in the year, not only had they made almost 4,000 sandwiches, but they had packed 1,200 sack lunches. They also made enough soup to feed 385 people for lunch one day at one of the local pantries. We made and sold 120 jars of soup mixes and 60 jars of cookie and brownie mixes to raise money for that year's children's Christmas gifts. And we always do a Christmas gift for children. We also made, at that year, we made 70 snuggle packs. A snuggle pack is a fleece blanket, approximately 45 by 60, a children's book, a new children's book, and a new stuffed animal. We also made 12 smaller packs with a stuffed animal and book. We delivered 82 packages of these snuggle packs to 2 different Christmas stores. In addition, we packed 3,000 Easter eggs for a church that was having a community-wide Easter egg hunt. We created 2,565 notes of encouragement for the food pantries to use to add to their sack lunches when they distribute them. We also, as I thought about it and was thinking about all the figures that we'd be compiling for 2019, I realized that I had left out a couple of other things we did last year. We made 360 snack bags for the Ronald McDonald houses for families to use when they go from the Ronald McDonald House over to the hospital to be with their child. We also made 75 hygiene bags. In addition to that, we made 100 first aid kits for low-income families. So these people, given the opportunity, can give and do a lot. With the right support, anybody can be a superhero. I'm the lucky one. I don't have to attend a lot of meetings, but I do get to work with heroes every day. The other thing I'd like to share with you is, and I, you want me to share that now? Okay. I would like to read a poem to you that they wrote as a group. And it started out in our poetry and literature group, and I read them a children's story that's well known. It's called The Carrot Seed, and it's no longer in print, in fact. And after I retold the story to them, I said, now why am I reading this to you? What is this story about? So we began discussion about what the story was about. And we eventually reached our point pretty quickly that the story was about hope. And I said, wow, hope. That's kind of important, isn't it? Well, yeah. So I said, well, I think we ought to write a poem about that. What is hope? Here's the poem they wrote. Hope is like a dream that comes alive. Hope is like a box of chocolates. There just might be a cherry on top. Hope is like the springtime, a new beginning. Hope is like the morning sunrise, full of joy. Hope is like a newborn baby opening their eyes. I said, well, when do you hope? And someone said, I hope when it's the darkest night. I hope when things need to go better. I hope for peace when the wars are raging. I hope even when the sun is not shining. Well, what do you guys hope for? I hope for the day there's no discrimination. I hope for the day where there is no hunger for one and all. I hope for the day we can all come together to settle our differences. I hope for the day our children will never have to go to war. And I said, and as I read it back to them, I said, you know, this is great. I said, but let's wrap it up. What do we really want to tell people? And so again, discussion began. And we finally came to the conclusion how important hope is. And so this was a line that someone said, and then someone added this last line. There is no tomorrow without hope. So share your hope. But if you need some, I'll share mine with you. And then I brought along one of the kits, and I delivered 70 of these today. That's the fleece blanket, the children's book, Ellie. If you haven't read this book, you should. It's a great book. It's about the elephant that saves her zoo that was going to go out of business. And of course, then we found the right animal to go with it. And we packaged them in the clear vinyl packages so families can see exactly what they're getting. Some are girls, some are boys, some are neutral. And then I think we were kind of behind on them this year, but we also, in addition to that, delivered about 60 other packets of an animal and a book. So, but one of the proudest things that these folks do is their work on Friday afternoons. One day we were a little bit behind, and I said, hey guys, we need to get this done today. Can we skip art today and work this morning and then come back and work again this afternoon? And someone said, well, that's the most important thing. And someone else said, yeah, well, why do you think we're here? So, and of course, we always get paid after we work, right, Jose?
Yes.
We always get paid. Sometimes it's a regular size sushi bar. Sometimes it's 2 chocolate kisses. Sometimes it's sitting down and telling bad jokes to each other.
Yes.
And they always tell me when I tell a bad one, you know, But I do want you to hear how vital and important this program is. Not only to them, which is vital to them, but to their caregivers. Nobody humanly alive can care 24/7 for someone, and it is a full-time job. We know that caregivers often die first, and believe me, it's a tough situation, especially, and I've had it happen many times, where there are no other relatives, and the caregiver is gone. So it's also a gift to them. But it's also a gift to the family because they do maintain those relationships longer. And they're going to continue to do that. And I would go to any state in this country to help start more programs like this. Because right now just talking about Johnson County and Kansas City, Missouri, which for 16 years I worked for the Alzheimer's Association. But, we covered 39 states in Missouri and Kansas. That was our territory. And I would tell you, we need one in North Kansas City, we need one in Raytown, we need one in Blue Springs, we need one in Olathe, we need one in Topeka, we need one in Leavenworth County very much. And so it is my hope that you will consider that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And all of these things you talk about are all in Johnson County, and there's just no reason why these things should not be done right here for the people that live here. There's just no reason why.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Mr. Madden, go ahead.
My brother has Alzheimer's, and the only program that they've had here, and it's only because he's a veteran, was 1 hour of cognitive therapy a week, and that's it. And he lives alone. His wife did die before him, and so he probably will live many more years, so I want him to be as happy as he can. And that 1 hour gives him a lot of joy, and I sat in on their program last week and was really impressed with the organization of it and the amount of the camaraderie between the group there. Even the program at the VA, my brother goes out there and there's 5 other guys that he knew through business that he doesn't know anymore, but now he's re-met them again. And, that's just amazing. He knows them now. He'd forgotten about him, but he knows him now. So I think it's a wonderful program. It's definitely a need, and I certainly would vote to consider this special use permit. I hate the term daycare, but it is a wonderful activity center and a cognitive stimulation area and inspiration. So the term AIR, I like that, the inspiration and respite arts. Is that arts for activity?
Yeah, that's Mr. Dave's program that we started at the First United Methodist Church Leavenworth, and it's arts, inspiration, and respite.
Respite, yeah. That's a wonderful program.
Mr. Mayor, I just have a couple questions on the administration of this. We're here to consider the special use permit, and I think all of us are definitely in favor of the program here. But our job here is special use permit. The first question I have, 729 Pennsylvania, is that the former school building?
That's building.
The preschool building.
Is it the former St. Casimir School, or is?
No, it's,
Please state your name and.
my name's Bill McNamee, and I live at 1303 Holman Street.
Yeah.
We are the owners of the building. I'm on the finance council for the Sacred Heart in St. Casimir. The building in question is the preschool building that was built about in the 1990 timeframe and served as the preschool, right on the corner of the newer building. When they reorganized the school system, that building has been vacant for about 10 years. We've looked at other programs coming in, and this is the first one we thought would actually suit that building, and we fully support Elaine's program. I'm here tonight not just to make sure that our building gets rented. We're not worried about that. What we want to do is to answer any questions that you may have about the building. But it is the building that's right on the corner It's fenced,
Yeah.
and it's where the preschool used to be.
Okay. And the next point I want to bring up, before this even went to the planning commission, all neighbors within 200 or 300 feet are sent certified letters on that this can be rezoned, have an SUP in that area. And reading through the staff notes, all the neighbors were properly notified and no one came forward. There have been no objections in
Correct.
the neighborhood for it. And quite frankly, there's no objections in the neighborhood, there's nothing to question. I think we just need to move forward on this. And our process is, we don't approve tonight, it's a first consideration that we do a consensus, then our next regular meeting, which, when is that, Mr. Mayor? Sometime in January?
January
isn't it?
14th, I believe.
Okay, January 14th, it would, I can't say how the commission's gonna vote, but that would be the next time it'd be considered.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Wilson, any comments?
Man, I just want to say thank you all for identifying the need and bringing hope to this community and serving, and I do support this wholeheartedly. Thank you.
And what I would like to say is that between the read-ahead package and the presentations by Ms. Bellardo and Ms. Reeder, which were both very inspirational, and I learned a heck of a lot, both in reading the read-ahead package and also through your presentations. And I think this is a wonderful initiative, and as Commissioner Preisinger said, I'm pretty confident that we're gonna move this along to our next meeting when we can take a final vote on a motion, but I'm completely supportive, and I think you've heard that support from the other commissioners. And I would like to thank Ms. Bellardo and her husband for making the decision to live near your relationships, because I think that's critical, and that says everything about you and your family and your priorities. But I think it also says something about our community, that it is a community that cares, really does care, and we're proud to be citizens in this community.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
My name is Joseph Clark. I live at 1628 South Broadway, and I did hear one of the commissioners say that they sent letters out, and I did receive a letter, but I spoke last time in favor of the program also, because I not only listened to the merits of the program, I'm looking forward to being a part of what goes on there when called upon. But as I'm sitting over here, I'm hearing a few things that I just have some questions about myself. And number one is, why do we keep calling this the adult daycare center? I understand that we have programs and centers already in place, and they don't call themselves adult daycare centers. And why are we calling still this adult daycare center?
I'll take a little bit on that. I don't want to be argumentative, but we have the application of the special use permit dated October 25th, and on there it asks for a special use permit for the operation of, quote, an adult daycare center, and that's the way it was submitted. Whether we call it that or not, I can understand your objections, but that's, I think, how it got to this point. Because on the initial application, the application read an adult daycare center.
Okay.
So, and that may have been an administrative thing on whoever submitted the application has notarized. That's why there's no intention of.
Well, can that be changed so we don't have to continue to hear?
I think Ms. Hurley talked, I'm sorry.
Shake
I
your
think Ms.
head.
Hurley talked about that, and that.
Yeah, as I explained, since we don't have this particular type of use defined in our regulations, we had to compare it against the next closest comparable use, which is how we landed upon this term, which is, I understand maybe, in the view of the applicants, it's not the most applicable term, but it is a fairly common use for planning and administrative purposes. And so that's how it was processed this way. At this point, since it has been published and gone through the process this way, we can't change the title or the wording on the special use permit application. And again, going forward, staff is intending to bring this back to look at for future applications, but this use is how it has been processed with this term.
Yeah, and this is basically an administrative matter. I would rather prefer to focus on the positivity and the inspiration that we heard tonight. I think we can handle this going forward. So I appreciate your feedback, but I know that there's going to be wonderful things happening in that center, and as has been related tonight, and it's very powerful, and that's kind of how I'd like to end this particular conversation, if we could, unless you have anything else.
Oh, no, I don't, I just, I had
Sure, no
some
problem.
concerns.
I
and
don't like
since-
it either, Joe.
And since it appears that I'm the
Yeah.
only one in
Yeah,
the
we're-
neighborhood that's speaking in favor, and then it's a unanimous,
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
agree with you,
So
Joe.
any other discussion among the commissioners? If not, is there a consensus to move this ordinance along for final consideration at a future meeting?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So before we adjourn, I'm gonna go around the horn here, and I'm first gonna ask, Mr. Kramer if he has anything for the good of the order.
Sure, I'll just make one quick comment. Over the last 48 hours, we had our first significant snow event of the season. First, before we get into anything related to the treatment and removal of snow, I'd like to thank the men and women of the Leavenworth Public Works Department, working on Sunday, working overnight into Monday. That said, it's a process that is very public. It draws a lot of reaction. There are areas that we can improve on, specifically some of the residential areas. We're aware of that. We're working on that. We're putting processes and steps in place to make sure that our standards are met. We have high standards, as our residents do, and they should. So I just want to put it out there. I think we did a pretty good job, and there's always room for improvement.
Anything else, Mr. Kramer?
I don't.
Mr. Wilson?
And I just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and stick to those New Year resolutions.
Mr. Preisinger?
Nothing to add besides Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, be safe, and we're back here for our first study session on January 7th, and our first regular meeting on January 14th, so I look forward to seeing everyone back at that time.
Commissioner Bowder?
I'd like to thank all the city staff for all their hard work this year. And especially, we had our Christmas party the other night and recognized the Brian, who worked so hard at the floods, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his last name. Bailey, who worked so hard at the during the floods, and then we've got all the weather stuff going on, the street stuff. We've had a tough year, an expensive year, unfortunately, too. But we had good leadership with the mayor, and I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year and a Merry Christmas.
What Commissioner Bowder didn't tell you is that this city staff, in addition to working very, very hard, can party too. I saw that last Friday. They had a good time. I had a good time. The commissioners, I think, all had a good time. So we wish them happy holidays, and I wish all the citizens within our city, the first city of Kansas, a very happy holiday. And hopefully everyone can get together with friends and family to celebrate this very, very special holiday. And just the other thing is just to be safe over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
One more comment, Mr. Mayor. I know this is a Navy, Army community, but I just wanted to.
Right.
All right, so can I have without further ado, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn this evening's meeting. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion carries 4-0, so we are adjourned for 2019.
Yay. All right.